60973, the number to call. You can text 84850 or tweet at LBC. Nigel has called from Guildford. Nigel, on this whole question of whether fault should ever be central to petitions for divorce, should it be?
You should make allowance for it, yes.
In case someone is at fault?
I've got to confess I have a vested interest.
You're a lawyer?
No, I'm private investigator.
Oh, okay.
I've been for years and years, and
What's going on out there, Nigel?
Oh, you'd be surprised. Actually, you probably wouldn't be surprised. You're an LBC presenter. But, we deal with a lot of corporate work, but we deal with a lot of private work as well. And
people spying on their spouses.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I was trying to find another way of saying it, but yes.
But that is what it is.
It's not so much spying.
It is.
It's information. It's trying to find out the true facts of a circumstance. I mean, on the private side, if it is something that's surrounding a relationship or surrounding a marriage, I've got to say, even in this day and age, probably something like 80% of our clients are female. It's never about is he or isn't he. It's much more about I don't really know what's going on. I know something is going on, and I want to prove that I'm not a mushroom. And the consequence goes through right to the bitter end. So it's mainly women who suspect that something is going on, but they don't know that that's the case. Yeah.
And how often are they right?
Always.
So a woman's intuition.
I hate using that word. I can't remember the last occasion, and I mean that's casting back over 20 years. I really can't remember the last occasion when somebody was wrong. And that's probably down to female intuition, but that's a whole different topic, really, isn't it? And
is it more often than not sexual rather than financial, for example?
No. There's a good split between both. It's not necessarily the traditional reasons that one might think. I mean, we were listening to LBC in the office, and we were talking about the whole thing and how if there is fault in a relationship, it's a very important emotional thing for the affronted partner to be able to prove it for themselves rather than anything else. There's a big difference between I married him or her for 25 years, we divorced, and I married him for 20 or 25 years or her, and we parted because of the way that I was treated in the marriage. And I think for the afterlife, for the next part of somebody's life, that's quite a significant difference. And if fault divorce goes, I mean, as the previous call, one of the past callers was saying sort of quite rightly, there are 3 fault grounds, 2 of which are used, unreasonable behaviour and adultery, and if it is an adulterous matter... or
what's the third one?
Behaviour matter, desertion.
Oh, desertion, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it even really comes into things these days, but, adultery, fair enough, is unreasonable behaviour, but if there is fault and a reason for that marriage to break down, then the statement of saying so is very, very important. And just walking up and getting a dissolution, I don't know. But that's a personal opinion. It's not official.
No, it's interesting what you say, though, about the need for, if somebody has been wronged, let's use adultery because I think it's perhaps the most stinging example, isn't it? That somebody wants that recognised in the petition rather than just saying, right, our marriage is over, let's split this.
Yeah. And very often, I mean, it's not always the case that the two are split up, because very often we'll see that if there is an adulterous marriage, then probably there is an essence of financial control as well, because a lot of it is about control. I'll probably get shot for saying that.
What do you mean, sorry? You mean the woman wants to get the money?
No.
What do you mean when you say that?
I mean, you've got one partner controlling and pulling the strings in the whole relationship, including whom they see outside of the marriage. I mean, all too often, if we're dealing with something, so you have to excuse my hesitance. I'm trying to express something that's quite difficult, because a lot of it is the emotional aspects which don't get stated, but we actually sort of see behind the scenes with something. Take more often than not, probably a woman partner, female partner, within a marriage. The husband will perhaps be doing something that is adulterous or in a relationship elsewhere, and also controlling the financial purse strings. So she's got very little control in what's going on.
So when the divorce happens, she puts the boot in.
Yeah.
Let's call a spade here, Nigel.
No, I don't know whether it's putting the boot in. Don't very often see that real vindictiveness. It is, if I am going to separate, if I'm going to turn my life completely upside down, if I am going to go and then try to make a new life, I need to have in my head a reason for it having happened in the first place.
I also, I sometimes, I'm a woman, and I suspect it's also I need to win because I'm losing big at this point.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. Particularly if perhaps you've lost during an awfully long period.
Mm. And I guess you've also lost the future you expected to have.
Raise the kids, being the kids' support, perhaps sacrifice a career. It's not that much of a modern world. That very traditional world it still exists. I mean, our main base is in Surrey. Most of the work is London. It's Surrey, it's Sussex, it's home counties, and so forth. Quite relatively affluent areas, and also, in many ways, quite traditional areas as well.
Mm.
Particularly with commuting into London, where it probably, not always, but probably will be the male partner in the marriage who is the one who is earning the bucks, and it probably will be the female partner in the marriage
who's at home,
is partly at home or perhaps doing a partial career, always at home all the time, and therefore doesn't have the control. He has the opportunity, he's got the social opportunity.
And Nigel, having spent years, I imagine, seeing the kind of Greek tragedies behind the headlines in the work that you do, do you think it would be a mistake to remove? If your priority is if anyone's priority is the care of people and the care of families, you still believe, do you, that a fault element has to still exist?
If marriage is to have a sanctity, yeah, I do. But that's a person.
No, it's been interesting talking to you. You think that it needs to be there in that mix. Thank you. Any man with an IQ in double figures who would even contemplate marriage, as long as the current legal contract discriminates so outrageously against men for divorce, is lying.